hello, and welcome to another edition of Grown Folks Business on a foggy and damp Thursday evening, but it's rather warm out actually. Want to say hello to some of the familiar faces, some of the return visitors, and some new ones. Of course, everybody can't always have the camera on, and I was made aware, so ex- I'll expose it the best way I know how. But I'll start with you, Ebony Burnett. Glad you can make it. Former co-worker of mine at the historic Hayes Taylor YMCA, and someone I hold near and dear. She's doing some good things, and I was able to connect with her and invited her to the show. She is a mother and a good one at that. So she's doing mother stuff while she is of some young kids, some toddlers, and she's doing mother stuff while she's joining us. So I'll just say hello, and she can chime in when I come around too, and if she can, it'll be understood. But thanks for joining us, Ebony, for the first time. Lisa, thanks for coming back as you always do. Glad to see you. Mike, good to see you. Bob, always a pleasure. And Danya, thank you for doing what you do here. And Ebony, if you want to say a few words, because I seen you got the trigger finger, go ahead and say a couple words if you want to.
No, I just thought you were about to call on me, but yeah, my little guy's in the shower. So I just thank you for inviting me and glad to be here.
Glad to have you, Ebony. Thanks for joining. Um, Cutting to the chase, pretty much. Tonight's topic is one of those that happens in real time, and sometimes I get the pleasure of grabbing something out of the headlines and making it into whatever I do in this space, which is hopefully an edifying conversation. But I titled tonight's show "The Danger of Identity Politics." Diversity is not always a win for the underrepresented. Right now, as most of the country is aware, a justice of the Supreme Court is retiring, and Joe Biden has pledged to fill that seat with a black woman. Um, he's being super specific to a high percentage of degree, and that's debatable, but I'll come back to that at some other point in time. But he's being specific in who he's going to seek out to fill that role, who he's going to interview for that position on America's highest court. So, with that being understood, again, I'll say the topic so that it's more crystal with that framing. Uh, the danger of identity politics. Diversity is not always a win for the underrepresented. So, this proclamation of bringing a black woman to the Supreme Court sounds good, but some of what we're discussing has to have something to do with hearts, convictions, morality, and all of that good stuff. So you can bring a black person anywhere, but what's on their mind? You can bring a white person anywhere. What's in their heart? You can bring an Asian person. You can bring whoever. We come in all flavors. We're a human race, but this form of identity politics, it has a history of backfiring by some measures. But we'll get to some of that as we discuss. I am happy to have a full house. Thanks, Meryl, for joining us. Celeste, glad to have you here. Another newbie. Appreciate you making the time and joining us. And this, thank you, Miss Penny. I guess she's talking about me because I'm the only one that's been talking. So I'll take those hearts, and that's so true comment. But Celeste, great to see you. Celeste is a super knowledgeable person, young person of early 20 era, and she's got a lot to share and a lot I think that'll make us better going forward. So I appreciate you being here, and the fact that I have 3 women in this space tonight is awesome for this topic. So I certainly look forward to some good, interesting conversation. Guys, you might have to take a back seat because I want to hear from the ladies tonight. But before we get into this dynamic conversation, because I thought it was a good topic, and others have shared with me that they thought the same, I'm going to play 3 clips in consecutive order, or just consecutively, that give us a little bit of insight into the process that's taking place right now as far as Joe Biden's commitment to bringing a black woman into the Supreme Court, and give us a little bit of the backlash that's being glimpsed at the moment. I think, reality TV wise, confirmation hearings are going to be, amazing in this just as amazing as the ones that have happened more recently, right? So we'll get some more must-see TV pretty soon. But I'm gonna play some clips, come back to on the other side, and we'll unpack and have a dynamic discussion. So be processing your thoughts. And the first question will be, what is diversity? So be thinking on that. Keep a short answer so I can get around the room on that one, and we'll discuss some other stuff. But what is diversity? Be processing that before as I transition to these clips and when we come back to the other side.
President Biden has given himself a tight deadline to nominate the next Supreme Court justice as Stephen Breyer prepares to retire. The president vowed to nominate the first Black woman to the High Court by the end of February, but it's unclear if she'll have any bipartisan support. Bradley Blackburn joins us now with more on this. Bradley, good morning.
Hey, Anne-Marie, good morning. Certainly don't anticipate any broad bipartisan support. Things are so different now than they were 30 years ago when Justice Breyer was confirmed by the Senate. Back then, 87 senators voted yes on his nomination. Today, the nominee would be lucky to peel off 2 or 3 Republican votes. But at the end of the day, it may not matter because in a 50-50 Senate, Democrats should have the votes they need to approve President Biden's first choice for the Supreme Court.
I will select the nominee worthy of Justice Breyer's legacy of excellence and decency.
President Biden says he will choose a Supreme Court nominee to replace Justice Stephen Breyer by the end of February.
Person I will nominate will be someone with extraordinary qualifications, character, experience, and integrity. And that person will be the first Black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court.
At the White House yesterday, Justice Breyer spoke about the American experiment.
My grandchildren and their children, they'll determine whether the experiment still works. And of course, I'm an optimist, and I'm pretty sure it will.
The front runner to replace Justice Breyer is Federal Appeals Court Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, who once clerked for Breyer and spoke about the experience in 2017.
It was an incredible experience just to be in the room while the justice grappled with some of the most difficult and consequential legal issues of the day.
Another candidate is Judge J. Michelle Childs, a favorite of South Carolina Congressman James Clyburn.
She has what I call the kind of background and experiences that we ought to have.
It's unclear if Republicans will support any nominee, though they are powerless to block the confirmation if all 50 Democrats vote yes.
I'm going to give the president's nominee, whoever that may be, a fair look.
Breyer says he'll stay on the bench until the end of the court's current term this summer. And if the next Supreme Court justice is in fact a Black woman, she will join Justices Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan in the court's liberal wing, meaning that all of the liberal justices are women. Anne-Marie?
Very interesting, Bradley. So the president's given himself a month to come up with a name, come up with a nominee. Once that happens, walk us through the process. What's the timeline? How long will it take before Congress gets an opportunity to consider and vet her?
Right. The wheels should start moving very quickly. Senate Democrats say they will start this confirmation process as soon as President Biden makes his announcement on a nomination. Of course, the Senate Judiciary Committee is responsible for vetting the nominee. And once they approve after confirmation hearings, it would go to the full Senate for a vote. Now, this process has typically taken about 70 days in the past, but there's no firm rule on that, so it could move faster. And Anne-Marie, importantly, it can all happen before Justice Breyer steps down formally.
Yes, because he remains a Supreme Court justice until the end of this term. Give us a sense of, some of the more consequential cases that he and the other justices will be considering this term.
Right. The court has heard a lot of very high-profile cases this term, and Justice Breyer will have a lot of influence over the final decisions on those until he steps down. And that may be one reason why he decided to hold on for another year. He will have influence over cases involving gun rights, abortion rights, among other social issues. The court also plans to hear major cases on affirmative action, but that may not happen until next October, Anne-Marie, when a new justice could be on the bench.
All right.
Battle now brewing over the next Supreme Court justice. President Biden, of course, promising to nominate the first black woman to the court. Some Republicans now calling that offensive, the promise. And tonight, what Republican presidents have promised in the past. Ronald Reagan and his campaign promised before the 1980 election, and his argument back then that his promise was also long overdue. Rachel Scott on the Hill tonight.
Tonight, as President Biden narrows down his pick for a Supreme Court nominee, some Republicans are taking aim at his pledge to appoint the first black woman to the bench.
The fact that he's willing to make a promise at the outset that it must be a black woman, I gotta say that's offensive. It's actually an insult to black women.
Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi comparing the president's pledge to affirmative action.
The irony is that the Supreme Court is at the very same time hearing cases about this sort of affirmative racial discrimination.
Yes.
And while adding someone who is the beneficiary of this sort of quote.
But neither of those senators objected when former President Donald Trump announced he would pick a woman to succeed Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
It will be a woman, a very talented, very brilliant woman. We haven't chosen yet, but we have numerous women on the list.
When Ronald Reagan ran for president in 1980, he too campaigned on a promise to make history, in his case by nominating the country's first female justice.
One of the first Supreme Court vacancies in my administration will be filled by the most qualified woman I can possibly find. It's time for a woman to sit among our highest jurists.
Of the 115 Supreme Court justices in American history, 108 have been white men. Only 5 have been female. A black woman has never even been nominated.
He will choose and nominate someone who has impeccable credentials and is eminently qualified. There's no question in his mind that there is a wealth of qualified, talented black women to choose from.
And a key Democratic senator says it's about time.
I don't look at it as being politicized. I look at it for being basically just a balance that needs to be done to represent who we are as a nation.
The president says this is long overdue, and some Republicans appear to be keeping an open mind, including Senator Lindsey Graham, praising fellow South Carolinian Judge J. Michelle Childs. She is on the president's short list. David?
Rachel Scott on the Hill for us tonight. Rachel, thank you.
Ron Klain called me this last week when the word was being spread around about Stephen Breyer's decision. And I asked him, I said, how close is the president to choosing a nominee? And he said he's going to go through the process carefully. And he has not made his mind up at that point a few days ago. I'm going to trust his judgment on this. I don't want to put the finger on the scale for any one of the nominees.
I can't think of a better person for President Biden to consider for the Supreme Court than Michelle Childs. She has wide support in our state. She's considered to be a fair-minded, highly gifted jurist. She's one of the most decent people I've ever met. It would be good for the court to have somebody who's not at Harvard or Yale. She's a graduate of the University of South Carolina, a public education background. She's been a workers' comp judge. She's highly qualified. She's a good character, and we'll see how she does if she's nominated. But I cannot say anything bad about Michelle Childs. She is an awesome person.
You've been vocal in your endorsement of South Carolina Federal District Judge Michelle Childs. The White House acknowledged she's being looked at. Senator Graham just gave her a glowing recommendation. Have you spoken to President Biden about her?
Yes, I did several months ago.
I would welcome the appointment of a black female to the court. I believe that diversity benefits the Supreme Court, but the way that the president has handled this nomination has been clumsy at best. It adds to the further perception that the court is a political institution like Congress when it is not supposed to be.
I can't say that I've got wild expectations that Joe Biden is going to nominate someone who I think I can support or many Republicans can support, because I've seen dozens of his nominees to the lower courts, and they've almost to a person been left-wing ideologues who think judges should make the law rather than apply and uphold the Constitution and the laws as they are passed.
Your colleague, Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi, said picking a female Black Supreme Court justice is affirmative racial discrimination. He questioned any potential impartiality from any of the candidates named. Nikki Haley of South Carolina also tweeted the president should not have a race or gender litmus test. President Reagan promised to nominate a woman, Sandra Day O'Connor. So why is this different?
Well, it's not different to me. Put me in the camp of making sure the court and other institutions look like America.
And it was Donald Trump who announced that he was going to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg with a woman nominee as well. So this is not the first time that a president has signaled what they're looking for in a nominee. And I would just say the bottom line is this in terms of African-American women. If they have achieved the level of success in practice of law and jurisprudence, they've done it against great odds. They're extraordinary.
Do you feel that Democrats need this nomination and that it will make a difference going into the midterms, given these other promises were not delivered on?
I certainly do believe that. I believed it 2 years ago. It is why I advised then candidate Biden to put that into his campaign. If you recall, the first time he ever said that was at the South Carolina debate, the 25th of February.
I remember, I was there.
All right. So Jim Clyburn threw his weight behind Joe Biden to get a Black woman a job, a lifetime appointment on the Supreme Court is what I garnered from that, because as the reporter, interviewer mentioned, nothing else has been delivered. And when you find some agreement from certain individuals who have shown themselves to be a certain way, like Lindsey Graham, you got to wonder, how much that diversity is worth when they throw their weight behind certain people. And I've heard the Childs might be questionable, but I don't know enough. I'm just making an observation. We'll learn more as we go along. And I know that some of the commitment has been made to getting this decision made by the end of February. Why? There's no clear answer, but we know it's Black History Month. Symbolism? I don't know. I mean, stop it. Let's stop that. And Justice Breyer, he sounds like a can kicker. Everybody likes to throw everything into the next generation and how much they believe, but man, are holding an important job. You're still here too. You're still here. You still got stuff to do. So don't be a can kicker. With all that being said, I'm going to come around the space really quickly and just give me a quick and fast definition of diversity. Then we'll at least get to one of my big questions and unpack things from there. But that diversity comment, I think I want to hear before I carry the conversation forward. I'll start with you, Celeste, if you can engage. What does diversity mean?
Oh. Wow. Diversity. So I feel like diversity, it's not even diversity does have two different definitions. You have the definition that predominantly white people use, which is usually done by color, sometimes culture, sometimes ethnicity, if we're feeling spicy. But if we're getting into what the actual term of diversity is when we talk about true diversity has nothing to do with skin color, because there's one race and that's the human race. If you're going to talk about diversity, it's people of different cultures, different ethnicities, different backgrounds. Two people can be from Africa, but Nigerians and South Africans have two different experiences in this world. So therefore, there is diversity in Blackness that does not come down to race. You talk to somebody from Slovenia or Moldova versus somebody from France, they're both white, but their experiences are different. Their cultures are different. If we're going to get into truly what diversity is everybody. from a different background, a different ethnicity, a different culture coming together. Diversity is understanding that one skin color doesn't mean that you all agree on one thing. Blackness is not a monolith, because I definitely will never agree with Clarence Thomas on anything.
Well said. And we'll get to Mr. Justice Thomas. I think we'll if you guys bring him up, we'll get to him. Ebony, what does diversity mean to you?
Yeah, to kind of piggyback there, it's just a range of life experiences. It goes beyond race, and it goes beyond skin color, but it's all about the experiences, your life experiences, your culture, your home, your upbringing. All of that is built into who a person is, their age. All of those things are part of diversity.
Well said. Lisa?
I'm going to echo what Ebony and Celeste said before. Diversity to me is a varying of perspectives, and to be able to take those varied perspectives based on those experiences. Because as Celeste mentioned, being one thing, you're still going to have different experiences. So it could even be siblings from the same clan. There's still different perspectives based on how they saw their experiences. So diversity, skin color is a part of a diverse mix, but I think it's really very minute, skin color, in respect to diversity.
Awesome. Appreciate that, ladies. Mike, what you got? Diversity.
Power to the people. I'm a student of knowledge, so I'm reading this thing that Malcolm wrote, and he said diversity. I believe in anything that is necessary to correct the unjust conditions, political, economic, social, physical, or anything that is necessary. That's what diversity is to me as being a student of knowledge. Now it's like key thing I would say is integrity, and I would leave it at that. Is having integrity, no matter what race, is integrity. We kept hearing promises. I'll leave it there, but integrity.
That is a wonderful element to add. Bob, what you got?
Yeah, diversity to me is all about perspective and all about values and all about culture and all about experience and all about all of those things. And it cannot be distilled down to matters of skin color or gender or any of those sorts of things. I could talk about this for a long time, and I'm not going to do it because that's not what we're here for tonight. But this notion that Black people are like this and white people are like this and others like this and others like that, that's just not. Diversity comes from the heart. Diversity comes from the soul. Diversity comes from passion. Diversity comes from caring. Diversity comes from, and until you throw all that stuff into it, you don't have diversity. And we're too optically oriented. We distill our sense of diversity to optics. And if Lindsey Graham, to your point, Felton, Lindsey Graham and Clyburn back in the same person, what's that about? I mean, if Lindsey, I don't care. If Lindsey Graham is backing somebody for something, I'm skeptical, period. Start in the story. I don't care gender. I don't care color. I don't care. I'm skeptical, just to put that into a frame consistent with what you just shared.
Absolutely. Meryl, I know you in that world heavy, man. I am too. We are together. That's the CEO. Go ahead. What you got?
Yeah, man. Yeah, so diversity, I think I agree with a lot with what everybody said. Diversity is something that is necessary by itself. It's not the ultimate answer. Our country is set up, for things to go a certain way if you're white, if you're Christian, if you're straight, if you're wealthy and you're educated. And so like having folks from different backgrounds is super helpful. Somebody's explained it to me, like diversity is like who gets when you if you have a party with a bunch of kids, like what do the kids look like in the sandbox? So it's just like it's just all these different perspectives, ideas, necessary, but alone doesn't do much.
All right. So there was one word that I wasn't quite looking for because I wanted to contribute it because it's my favorite way of crystallizing diversity for myself. But I'm glad that you guys have all of this nuance and real deep thought in terms of understanding that diversity is not simply introducing color to a white system and such. So I'm going to read the definition before I give you the word. But the definition is the mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual. I like diversity of character. That absolutely absorbs everything that you guys have shared in terms of life experiences, backgrounds, culture, where you come from. But that character element gives one an establishment of certain principles, supposedly, that they adhere to based on things that they've encountered, things that they've studied, things that have caught their attention, things that they value, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Therefore, the diversity that I seek more than any is diversity of character, because that by nature should present people, especially when they're elevated to leadership in this country, it should have exposed them to a total understanding of the human condition at minimum under the umbrella of this country and under the flag of America. So that is a buzzword that I often I wedge it into the diversity conversation. Character is something I inject. There's a poll that I understand that shows that 75% of Americans want the best candidate and not just it simply being stated that it's a black woman. And you guys heard the conversations of former presidents saying they were going to get a woman in. Great. Woman is a broader statement than saying black woman. I was having this conversation today. There's nothing wrong, should not be a thing wrong with saying that, but do you have to, knowing the environment? It's almost akin to, the saying fire in a crowded theater. You can say it, but it's not a good idea, and it actually is against the law. That's one of the forms of free speech that doesn't exist because it endangers others. But in this instance, if that is what you intend to do, just do it. Did there need to be a pronouncement? Why does it need to be announced? Just do it. So what are your thoughts on that? I'm going to start back with the ladies again. Ebony, did it have to be pronounced? Is there any benefit to that? I want to hear from the women on this.
I agree 110%. I was like, why did you even have to? You didn't have to say anything. Just do it. There was no point. Well, there was. It was a political point. It was for him to get some brownie points. And for me, I'm just thinking, there was no point in you announcing it. You could have just done it. I think that, it's kind of like a drop the mic. If he had just done it, it's more of like a drop the mic. Look at what we've been able to accomplish. But him trying to, I guess, make him, I feel like it's more of a political thing to make himself look a certain way to the public, not necessarily for the true purpose of diversifying the court. So, I feel like it was just it's a political thing. I feel like it's all politics, and it could have been just done and drop the mic. Look at this, So there we go.
The honesty of the 110% agreement, Ebony, blows my mind. You know, I don't know if you've ever agreed with me on anything with the extra 10%. So I'm so appreciative. It means a lot. I was thinking you're gonna say I disagree 110%, but I'm so grateful. Thank you. I want to say too, it's just not. It's like Michael Jordan saying I'm gonna score 63 points. We know he can do it, but it's just so awesome to just watch without, the pointing for the home run or the just braggadociousness or the being assertive when you are the man. Michael Jordan come up to me and say, "Man, I'm gonna beat you in basketball." I'm gonna be like, "Okay, you don't have to, just do it." As the Nike emblem says, you don't have to tell me. I know you good. Celeste, what about you? Did it have to be announced?
I'm muted.
No,
y'all hear me?
We hear you. Did it have
Okay.
to be? Did it have to be announced? Did he need to announce it?
Yeah. All I can say is, but on the spirit of being 110%, yes, it was a political move. Biden wants his brownie points, and Lindsey Graham wants his brownie points. People forget that Lindsey Graham almost lost his Senate seat to a black man because of his poor appearance when it comes to dealing with black people in South Carolina. I'm not going to say you shouldn't be skeptical of him, but I don't think you should be skeptical of her, because Lindsey Graham is just doing what he got to do to make sure he gets his cushy health insurance plan and his cushy lifestyle of being a U.S. senator. Now, what I can say is that Biden nominating a black woman did not need to be stated. We all know why he did that. But in the light of things, he's talking about nominating a black woman with actual accomplishment, a black woman who has argued a case. A few of those black women have argued cases in front of the Supreme Court. Brett Kavanaugh, no. Amy Coney Barrett never argued a case. She was a law professor at Notre Dame. So he's talking about promoting an extremely intelligent, extremely capable black woman to the Supreme Court. And Americans are magically saying, oh, no, we don't need it by color. We need somebody who can actually do the job off of merit. The last two appointments by former President Donald Trump, they were not ready. They were not prepared. They did not deserve their Supreme Court seat, but they got it because he wanted brownie points. He wanted this to establish the 40 years of Republican rule. So he established people under the age of 50 to hold that seat with no merit. So why are you holding a black woman to a higher standard than you held the last three Supreme Court justice nominees? Was it Gorsuch? I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. It's honestly just looking like another double standard in America, where black women have to come to the table 100 times more prepared. And when they show up 100 times more prepared, they're still told they're inadequate or they got there because of affirmative action. No, she got it because she worked for it. I want you to argue 5 cases in front of the Supreme Court and figure out how you do.
Did I tell you guys how much I thought of Celeste, how highly I thought of her? That's all right. Well stated. Lisa.
Well, you're not gonna like my 110%. But a little fun fact: I was actually in law school when the Democratic National Convention was in Charlotte, and I literally had a dream that I was going to be appointed to the Supreme Court. Like, for real. I like the fact that it was announced, and for me, it helped with some healing to say the intentionality that this is where we're starting from. We're starting intentionally towards, from my perspective, and I know this is varying perspectives, we're starting from the perspective of the least appreciated, the least elevated, the one that's at the bottom of the pay chain or what have you, based on come on, you already know, white men get paid this, black men get paid that, white women that, black women that. Come on, Felton. But anyway, I like that he announced it because there is a lot to atone for, and him announcing it says, I am going to be intentional and start there. And to Celeste's point, I'm with you. Like, yes, we have to come like full on samurai and still may not be accept it. But because he announced it, and yes, they're going to get the most qualified, but because he announced that it's going to be a Black woman, it did set the tone, because you also have to look at the lenses that everyone else is looking out of. So if he just said a woman and you've got these two women that are equally qualified, if someone is looking from the lenses that there is something disqualifying about a Black woman, then you can get knocked out easy. So I like it. It made me feel good. And I gave me some kudos about the intentionality of making, of giving us a chance.
Now, Lisa, you know I welcome any outside thoughts. I'm not somebody, I do not desire for anyone to be in total agreement with me. That's boring. That would make life too boring. Make life tough to live if everybody agreed with me all the time. But I will say the deficiencies that exist in any element of society, population-wise, generally they're going to fall more squarely in the Black American community. That goes without saying. I guess more so, my disappointment, if I could categorize it, I don't even think it is disappointment, but my observation is solely based on just how terrible Democrats can be at politics at times. And I am one. I mean, just do it, because you know what you're welcoming otherwise. We're fractured enough. This did not used to be the big deal that it has become the last 10 years or so.
My main point was, we need something thrown at us for some healing salve. And I'm saying, for me, well, okay, you're not a Black woman, so you don't. I'm telling you, as a Black woman, what I needed, and I got that by saying, oh, he's intentionally going to just give us this shot. And I'm just speaking as a Black woman who has felt like I was thrown in with other women for opportunities, and to have to say, I think I didn't get that because I'm Black, or I'm a Black woman. And so here's my little shot. You don't get a vote on this one for what I need as a Black woman.
That's my agreement face for the most part. I do agree with some of what you're saying, but again, you know, that personalized element exists in your commentary. I get it. I feel better about it. Feel good about it. I'm not as stringently opposed. I'm just the observation, the optics. I mean, again, if Michael Jordan comes up to me and says he's gonna beat me in basketball, I'm like, what am I supposed to do? He's the man. Joe Biden, you're the man. Just do what you want to do. Especially in this case, when you have the sway to do it, they can't stop you, and they look bad just stopping you. How you doing, Tanika? They look bad just stopping you if you just do it. If you pronounce it, then they get this media run where they can be extra scrutiny heavy and say all these things they're saying already. Oh, it's affirmative action. Hey, this guy says ironically. Irony is comedic in a way. It's supposed to be some humor. He says ironically they're going over this stuff right now concerning affirmative action, and here we are about to. So we're giving ammunition to those that don't need it. Just do it, bro. Jordan, come on the court. I might try to play him, but I'm gonna lose because he's the man. Real quick and fast, guys. This is about the ladies tonight, so I'm coming to you guys, but I want concise answers so we can save time because I want to hear from the ladies a little bit more. So, Mike, what your thoughts are? Did they have to announce it? Did they have to say anything?
No, I didn't have to. We're entitled to it. I mean, so it's well overdue. So don't try to tell America KKK, hey, you doing something that we're entitled to. So it should have been done years ago. Stop trying to prove a point. Stop trying to get your political, debut or whatever you want to call it, and just do what y'all we supposed to been doing a long time ago. Not time now to try to gain any brownie points, because you don't get none from me as a pro-Black man and the groups that I run with. What you get from us is when you do what you're supposed to do behind closed doors and when doors are open. And as I stated earlier, integrity, doing the right thing when no one is looking. So no, I don't respect that. Any one political person saying I did this for the Black community, I did that for the Black and brown people. You ain't did nothing for me that you ain't supposed to do that we're not entitled to. So,
preach, Bob. What you got?
So I'm with Celeste. I'm with Ebony. Somewhat disagree with Lisa. I think no, you do what you do, and my feeling is that the most powerful thing for Joe Biden to do was say, I'm going to choose the top person for this opportunity, and then to choose a Black woman. I think that puts the Black woman at the top of the full heap. To start with saying, I'm going to choose a Black woman, puts that choice lower on the heap. The heap has to be full. And to say, I'm going to choose the best candidate, and then for that best candidate to be a Black woman, puts that choice at the top of the heap, and it takes away all of the argument that the naysayers and so forth can say, to say that, that he subsetted the group out of the gate. No, he didn't. Not if he says it that way. If he says it this way, he did. If he says it this way, he's already subsetted the heap, and he's not competing with the whole, because he's already subsetted it. And I think that's wrong. I just think it's wrong. There are plenty of Black women that are candidates for the top job, regardless of how small the population pool is made. They need to be chosen because they deserve it, because they exist out of the entire population, not out of a diminished population.
Agreed. And this is the positive reinforcement that comes in behind that, making it known that you're picking the best of the best, as you stated, and then that best of the best showing themselves to be a Black woman. Because, yeah, Lisa, I would almost, if I looked through time and saw the potential for there being a more diverse Supreme Court, I would probably put Black women up there a long time ago, before too many other people that have set foot in this country and done some things, because Black women are the backbone. My comments concerning any of these measures is generally the optics and just the deficiencies that exist in the execution. That's a lot of where a lot of strategy,
Yeah, and I just think you do what you do, and you prove that you've done it by doing it. Don't talk about it, just do it. Prove what you've done, prove that you mean it by what you do, and be done with it. Move on. That's leadership. That's leadership.
Some of my buddies that I come up with, last words might have been, don't talk about it, be about it. But in this case, it's highly applicable. Don't talk about it, be about it. Meryl, give us your ideas and thoughts on this piece of the topic, because I got a question I want to get to, and then I got another comment I want to get to. But man, this is awesome.
No, it is. It's awesome. I'll try to be brief. So in the macro, no. In the micro, yes. It's funny you made the comparison Biden to Michael Jordan. I think Biden is more like Patrick Ewing right now. He kind of needed the pub, he did a step below. There's 1,000 people who are qualified, maybe 2,000 people qualified for the job. And at least I wish I could believe that he was doing it for the reasons that you said, but he wasn't. The first 95 Supreme Court justices, the qualification was be a white man. So, to me, he had the power. Trump had the power when he did it. Reagan had the power, had the votes. It's just a dick swinging contest, man. So that's all it is. So,
well, I will receive your commentary as you meant it. Yeah, it's a lot of that patriarchal bully type behavior that we're watching, and without meaning it as an insult, some of these diverse hires are the pawns in the game. Some of these diverse people are just being moved around the chessboard by the same people that have always done it. I mean, Lisa, we know we live in a patriarchal society, and the fact that there's only been 2 black men who have been justices, when there was a time where that was the predominant population, black Americans and white Americans, in terms of actually functioning in what we deem to be American society. So out of those men that have existed for this period of time in a patriarchal society, we have to make sure that's understood. Only 2. And they were basically, from all measure that I can ascertain, polar opposites in terms of what they valued and what they thought was critical and important to move the country, or, improving us as a nation. So I'm going to ask this question. It's a bigger question. Just give some concise thoughts about what we're discussing. And Celeste, you can definitely elevate Justice Thomas with this question. And let's get around the space. And then I want to briefly engage in reading a quote and counter framing. And I might carry this over into next week's show about the NFL head coach Brian Flores, who's filed suit with the NFL. I think this is akin to that whole game of identity politics and the brinksmanship that takes place when it comes to actually doing something transformative in regards to racial and racism, racial atrocities and racism as it has existed in our country. So it's been proven that diversity picks don't necessarily speak to the desired progress of the majority of the country. So why do we still emphasize it? So that takes us back a little bit, but I think more forward, because you guys should have some ideas of people who've held positions, been celebrated, and then you find out almost like nobody's home. So Les, since I know you have some ideas about what you might want to share in terms of Justice Thomas.
Can you repeat the
Please,
first part of the
and
question
go where you want
quick?
to with it. Just yeah. The first part, it's been proven. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Go ahead. You repeat it. Yeah.
Okay. It's been proven that diversity picks don't necessarily speak to the desired progress of the majority of the country. So why do we still emphasize them?
Because America doesn't want to look as racist as we actually are. Like, people are talking about Joe Biden nominating a black woman. George H.W. Bush did the exact same thing when he nominated Clarence Thomas because Thurgood Marshall was no longer there. Like, this has been done before. People put black people in a lot of spaces as a token. And I don't know about y'all professionally as black people, but that's definitely happened to me. And I've been like, I gotta get up out of here. Cause I'm not finna say nothing that you like, and if I say what I gotta say, y'all not gonna invite me back. Y'all gonna want to snatch these little cute little letters from behind my name. So, I mean, America just does stuff to make itself look and feel less racist than what it actually is. Like, I know it's Democrat and Republican, but you're not gonna tell me that a white Democrat or 2 ain't dropped the N-word behind a closed door in the last 30 days. Like, that's just not gonna. No, people nominate black people to make themselves feel less racist because black people are the lowest minority on the totem pole in America. So if we put a black person up here, we just can't be that racist. I wish y'all could see my facial expressions right now because my facial expressions are selling it. But if you put a black person on the Supreme Court, oh my gosh, a black female attorney has made it to the highest court in the land. There's no misogyny. There's no inequality. Black people can do it too. I'm going to law school in the fall, and my black self was afraid to apply to Harvard because I was scared to get called a diversity pick. I had the score, the grades, and the credentials, and I still could not fill out the application because I do not want to get called an affirmative action pick because America is just that bad. Like, people put black people in spaces for show, and then if she gets up there and says something they don't like, watch them have a whole field day about her and how she shouldn't be up there. If Jasmine Childs is the nominee, she's argued 5 Supreme Court cases and is a California justice on the Supreme Court. She is more than qualified than the last 2 picks, but they will pick her apart and pull her apart when her black mouth utters words they don't like.
I'm not sure. She got some heavy hitters that seem to like her, but I'm being a little bit facetious. But well said, and yeah, that baggage that you're alluding to is definitely what I think Lisa's mentioning in the realm of a black woman functioning in society and desiring a win, and some of that salve you were talking about. Yeah, that imposter syndrome can hit you before you even get there, and it's a real thing. So we had a great conversation about that some months ago. I think we did 2 or 3 parts on college and the experience of being a minority in certain settings. But we'll come back to a lot of good things with your input and insight. I greatly appreciate you being here. Ebony, what you got? You need the question again? It was a long question.
Yeah, if you could, please.
It's been proven that diversity picks don't necessarily speak to the desired progress of the majority of the country. So why do we still emphasize them?
Yeah, I mean, same thing with, we're the we're the token. We're the ones they want to have in the room. They wanted us to be in the pictures. And I just want us to be, if we're truly equal, then, as our country says we are, we don't need to make announcements. We don't need all these special things. If we are truly equal, that's not necessary. Like Bob said, he wouldn't have said, "Oh, I'm going to nominate a black or a white male." He wouldn't have said that. He would have just said he would have nominated the best of the best. And Bob, I was over here praising the Lord at what you were saying, because it was so true. Let us just be the best. Let us be a part of the top 1% without us having to be looked at as the pawn, or as the the pawn on the board, like you said. So that's all I'm going to say. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, you said you said some really good stuff, and I mean, I'm so appreciative of you also being here and catching up, which has been nice. And then to know that you just you can jump into grown folks' business 2 feet first and land and start running with these topics. So I'm so appreciative that you can do that. And it's tokenism, it's symbolism. There's just an inauthenticity that exists with certain elements of these type of behaviors. And if you just do it, you do something we talked about on another show too, normalizing blackness. You normalize these things. Don't make a big deal about it. I mean, it is sad that we're still saying first black this and first black that and first black this all these many years later. And we don't know what black is anymore, hardly, because that whole conversation around Black Americanism is one that nobody wants to have. But we have gotten to a place that we can just do it, and we still want to have these little hiccups and little tough moments. Lisa, what you got? You needed me to read that long question again, or you got? I think she went to unmute herself and she hit the wrong button. Bob, we'll come to you right quick, and we'll let Lisa get back in. And if you need me to read the question, I think you got it. It's a long question.
Read the question one more time.
One more time. All right, I'll go back over it one more time, and then I'm going to come up with a way to summarize it. So it's been proven that diversity picks don't necessarily speak to the desired progress of the majority of the country. So why do we still emphasize them?
If we're truly leading, we have to drive toward things that need to happen. And if we're not, it's just symbolism, tokenism. If we're truly leading, we have to do the things necessary to drive us and take us to the place that we want to go, whether the crowd wants to go or not. If we are leaders, if our Constitution says this, and we are leaders, we have to do the things necessary to take us where that Constitution takes us. And in this country, we have, for whatever array of reasons, and this is the thing that's most confusing to me, we have a Constitution that says an array of things that we have never, ever, 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 ever lived up to, and we act like it doesn't even exist. We just act like it doesn't even exist. But I want to say something else too before this ends, because I'm looking at this screen. Two people that mean as much to me as any two people are on the screen right now. And we look diverse, but I don't feel we're diverse. Felton, Michael, me. We look diverse. Everybody looking at us would say we're diverse. I do not feel diversity with us. And I think that speaks to this topic in an almost opposite worldview. We are so close as friends. There's no diversity amongst us. I mean, we're different. A lot of things are different, but the core of us is not. And that's what we have to be as a world. That's what we have to be as a culture. That's what our Constitution wants us to be. It's not about performance. It's not about all of this other stuff that is made to be by the politicians and whatnot. The challenge question is, how do we move there?
Yeah, I think even, and this is not to counter at all, I think that is truly what diversity is in action. In absolute action, it's outside of the observational optic type thing of understanding that when you paint something black and then paint white right beside it and then paint blue, and that means no, the mixing of all of those colors is diverse. They don't go away, they just fall in each other. And I think it's functional diversity. I think it's actually what you're talking about is a functional diversity. I know you as I know you, I know Mike as I know him, I know Meryl as I know him. And man, Ebony, Celeste, Lisa, I just met Celeste. Celeste and we're diverse. But that's that type of situation where you can figure out you're more alike than you are different when you really embrace what it is to be a human being. So I appreciate that, Bob. I salute that. I know we're running up against it. Mike and Meryl, I'll come to you first to give me your answer, and I'm going to read the quote from Brian Flores, and I'll frame that for another conversation, but it's worthy of sharing. Go ahead, Meryl.
No problem. No, those are beautiful words, Bob. I felt in your question, though, like I feel like the premise I don't know if I agree with the premise, if the majority of folks are looking for that progress that you speak of. If you're saying the majority of folks who are marginalized, then I can answer that question. I don't worry so much, and I get why the symbolism is important and being in certain spaces is important. I would ask people who don't want to be the token or have some of those misgivings about, you've been hired, to check a box. I wouldn't be so much worried about it. I'd be worried about like what you contribute in that space. And I think with time, sometimes that's age and just experience and stuff, and just about that. And I would also say, when we talk about the Constitution, a lot of those guys thought that Thomas Jefferson was crazy. That's a painting. That's not a picture. Like that, there's this whole history of creating like this narrative and like this idea of American exceptionalism. Like, we believe these truths to be no. These guys didn't believe that stuff. It's about leverage. It's about power. It's about capitalism. So I don't know if I believe there is a large majority of people that want to see that progress that we're talking about. And I definitely would urge folks, in margin, if a woman, person of color, I wouldn't be so worried about people thinking about, you got hired because, based of like your background, color, your skin, because affirmative action has actually been happening for folks who are white forever. People hired in a vacuum solely on the color of their skin. So it happens. So I wouldn't be so worried about it. But I mean, that's my slant.
So not to push back, and if I do and you want to say something, please I'll give you the time to do so, Meryl. But my framing is based on there's just a large percentage of the population who desires to see transformative actions take place. Doesn't matter who's doing it. And generally, if you are in favor of universal health care, in favor of legalizing drugs, you're in a majority. So that's a progressive moment. And almost, but we know better. That's why the question was what it was. The general consensus for that type of energy is going to exist in the oppressed, in the underrepresented, in the minority fashion. But of course, that the question is asking that because we know there can be people that don't necessarily exude that, and they're going to be celebrated as some kind of diversity pick. But I hope that makes more sense. Okay. That was the spirit.
And it's more about class to me. That's when it's just more class versus race.
Yeah, and then it becomes about that heart thing once you get at certain levels, right? Because you're good. And man, this conversation could go on all night, but I appreciate you let me kind of give you the spirit of the question because I understood your comments completely. Mike, take us out of here with this last observation. Diversity picks don't necessarily speak to the desired progress of the majority of the country, so why do we still emphasize them?
Well, I mean, we stated it earlier. I mean, God don't feel like they have a point to prove and they have to do this, they got to do this. And we get to talking about that. It's not based around that. Is what you're supposed to do. We're equal. We're entitled to all this. So the diversity makes it an equal playing ground. But right now, it's not been an equal playing ground. It's been, as Brother Murray was talking about, the sandbox. You don't see different people in the sandbox. You see one, particular human race in the sandbox. So, and I hear people say, I think we're moving in the right direction. I had to say that. I mean, we are moving in a direction, but I don't think about the right direction because we're symbolizing things and first this and first that. And we got a long ways to go. Like we here and we got to go here. So, we're moving a cement wall or whatever. You trying to push it, and we need a crane to move this thing. So we ain't moving we are moving in a direction, but I don't think the right direction. I would say that, but some people will say I'm wrong, but we got a long ways to go. Black power.
Nah, well said. I think about was it Sisyphus that was tasked with pushing the rock up the hill and just kept having to do it repeatedly. So yeah, that's one way to look at it, Mike. And we're here for it. And I'm not a can kicker. As long as I'm here and occupying space, and I hope you all feel the same way. Ebony is doing stuff to make her children's lives better later. That's important. Do what you can while you're here. Because when you're gone, you're gone. But don't tell Ebony. I don't want to talk to Ebony in 7 years and her son is about to graduate high school or something. Maybe a little longer than that. Sorry. But he getting ready to graduate high school and you're saying, oh, yeah, he going to make it better for us. No, you still here. Let's all keep going. Let's try to do it together. I just wanted to interject this last bit because everything we discussed and a lot of the shows we've had previously, we touch on these topics and things, and I like to recognize when someone says they've had enough and maybe they have enough. And what I mean is you exude some level of sacrifice or potential sacrifice. We've talked about Colin Kaepernick. I, at this point, have some disappointment in him not engaging with us over the last few years, especially since he was one of the catalysts for recognition of injustices. And I would definitely I'll say that to his face. There's a limit to my celebration. But right now, Brian Flores, a head coach, former head coach of the Miami Dolphins, has spoken out against the NFL. And this goes into this whole conversation we're having tonight. You know, some elements of tokenism. What is diversity? Who's pulling the strings? The NFL is almost a reflection of society in terms of the workers and the 1% in the ownership that dictates most of what happens between them and their employees. And almost to a man doesn't ever get tasked with a real level of responsibility for what's taking place in the business. So I'll leave us with this quote from him. It's a rather long one. I'm going to try to read it succinctly and get us out of here. And I appreciate you guys hanging on. I know when we go over time, you guys don't know how much it means that you still are here. So I will not keep you much longer. But Brian Flores' quote is, "God has gifted me with a special talent to coach the game of football, but the need for change is bigger than my personal goals. I'm making the decision to file the class action complaint today. I understand that I may be risking coaching the game that I love, and that has done so much for my family and me. My sincere hope is that by standing up against systemic racism in the NFL, others will join me to ensure that positive change is made for generations to come." His generation is now, and he's doing something now. Not saying, well, down the road, my son might get a job and I know it's going to be better because I got hope and faith and I'm optimistic. No, do it while you're here. And as of right now, I'm rocking with Brian. Hopefully he maintains this level of energy and strength as long as he can. But it's a big sacrifice. I actually wrote a letter to the editor this week of the Greensboro News and Record, and it mentions that we need to be in appreciation for the sacrifices of those Black Americans that are generally elevated during Black History Month for what they did for us all. It's for the nation. Black Americans have done more to bring this nation closer to what it claims it was at its inception than any other group, and I stand on that. So with all of that being said, happy Black History Month. We'll continue to do what we do. And I'm so glad to have you guys in the space tonight. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Celeste. Thanks, Ebony. Meryl, salute. Appreciate you. Danya, great job. I appreciate you all hanging in there. Overtime was real, and it was worth watching. We might as well be in the realm of all those NFL games the last couple of weeks, right? Just great moments. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Thank y'all for hanging out. Be good.